Welcome back to Politically Speaking with Gene Covison.
And joining us now, seeking the congressional seat in California's 49th District, is State Assemblyman Rocky J. Chavez, now in his third term in Sacramento. He is a Republican representing the 76th Assembly District, encompassing parts of North Coastal San Diego County. He's a retired Marine Colonel, former Oceanside City Councilman and Deputy Mayor, and also acting Secretary of the state's Department of Veterans Affairs. Thanks for being with us this morning, Rocky.
I'm excited to be here on a Sunday.
And you ought to be excited because the Survey USA poll last week that came out had you as the front runner. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we're very happy.
Okay.
We've been working the communities very strong for over 20 years. And so I was joking with somebody, he said, well, I watch so many houses. I said, I've been walking for 20 years. This is about knowing your community and what they care about. And the central issue, national issue, that they care about with Camp Pendleton there is national security and when are their young women and men are going to go in harm's way. And so they need a serious congressman who understands their concerns on foreign affairs.
And veterans issues, obviously, that's a great part of it as well. You understand that. And you know that perhaps that's been underfunded, that there's a lack of accountability in some places there along the chain of command.
I think the biggest issue on veteran affairs is that it's a large bureaucracy with not a lot of people being accountable. It's the second largest organization in the United States government. Having been the secretary and having been back to DC, talking to them a number of times, you need somebody who understands not just the medical component, which you hear about a lot, but also you need to look at people for the retirement comp and pen, they call it. And then you hear about this every 10 years, is they run the cemeteries. And when you heard about the missing of bodies and things in the cemetery.
Yeah.
And then you look at the research that they're doing for prosthetics for veterans. So it's a large organization with a lot of important areas, and you need to have the right people that are accountable. And the central issue is this: take care of the veterans. It's not about money, it's not about bureaucracy, it's not about jobs, it's about what can you do for the veterans.
And the rest of their life, also in terms of employment, other concerns.
You know, transition is always a big issue, but when I talk to a number of the veterans organizations, which by the way, I've been selected as their legislator of the year by every major veteran organization in the state, their biggest issue is veterans are your best bet as a business person. Veterans come with you with an understanding of how to work, they understand how to get things done, they work as a team, they have great skills. I think too much noise is being made of the veteran who's suffering from PTSD or traumatic brain injury. We need to think about all the great skills that young veterans have when they come back to our country. They are the best and brightest of our country that went in to serve.
Let's broaden the scope here. One of the big concerns that you have got is what is going on in foreign affairs, national affairs, security. We are seeing all sorts of things happening in Washington that you step back and go, wow, what chaos. Overseas, things are unprecedented in terms of the strategic look. North Korea, South Korea, all those other things. What's your reaction to all that?
You know, since the fall of the Soviet Union and the end of the containment theory, I don't think we as a country ever figured out what was going to be our foreign policy in the front. The idea of building nations and being involved in everything isn't a strategic plan. Just today, you can read in the paper where the Chinese are completing their major naval exercises in the South China Sea. You know, that's a big threat right now because the majority of supplies logistics come through that area. And so the Trans-Pacific Partnership that I see we're going back into now, 3-4 years ago when this whole thing was discussed, I always thought it was important that we do that because it's much better to develop trade and relationships economically so that you don't go to war. If we pull ourselves back from these sort of negotiations, it opens us up for threats in the future. A good example of a successful one was the Marshall Plan when we rebuilt Europe and NATO. And we need to look at the same issue in the Pacific. And that means a lot to California because we are really a Pacific Rim, influence.
Gotcha. What's your level of confidence that things are going to work out there, or are they just going to continue to kind of drift in a way that we worry about what the future holds?
I think it goes in two areas. I think the one area is what comes out of the president's mouth and what's his vision, where he's going. But I think it also comes upon local leaders and people to look at a much broader perspective of where we need to be going. And that's why this congressional race is so important. That's why I'm running for Congress. You need to have congressmen who've been there, who understand it. I've been being a Marine colonel, being overseas many times. You need to have this greater perspective of where we are. So I think it's true that he's the executive, he has the right to do that, but it's also true that Congress, legislators have an equal voice, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
But within the executive branch, there is a concern here, and let's bring this to a close here at some point. There has got to be, let's just say, not only accountability, but stability in the White House, in the executive branch. We're seeing a lot of turnover.
Well, it's all about leadership, and the central person in there who sets the vision and the atmosphere of success. It doesn't matter if you're in the White House or if you're running a major company or if you're a principal of a high school. You need to have that vision and that environment so everybody be successful. I think the tweets hurt us, but I also agree that the president's decision on the Supreme Court and other things, he's done good and he hasn't done so much good. And that's where I always tell people, that's where I'll be.
Thanks for joining us today, Rocky J. Chavez. And straight ahead on Politically Speaking, search warrants served on the president's lawyer. Did the feds come up with prosecutable evidence of crimes? Stay tuned.